Hello, how you doing? Thank you for joining the program again this week. If you are listening on the podcast, thank you for listening. If you're watching on social media, thank you for watching. If you happen to be on Facebook, I encourage you to go to our While You Are Single Facebook page where I have other videos that you can watch as well. I also encourage you to go to our website, whileyouaresingle.org, where I have other resources that will be a benefit to you, and you can also listen to the podcast on the website as well. Again, thank you for joining the program. Thank you for sharing the program, and thank you for your comments. Let's open up in prayer. Father, thank you for the privilege to share your word today. I ask that you open our hearts to heed your word, open our ears to hear your word, open our eyes to perceive your word, open our minds to understand your word, and give us the wisdom to apply your word into our lives. I thank you for the individual who's watching right now. I thank you that this session is worth their while. I thank you that they can hear from you through this broadcast. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Well, I have been talking about getting along with people. And to do that, I talked about understanding people's personalities or temperaments. And I have been talking about the 4 personality types. They are choleric, sanguine, melancholy, and phlegmatic. But I chose to use the word straight shooter instead of choleric. I'm sticking with the word sanguine. I'm using the word laid back for phlegmatic and private person for melancholy. And the reason I'm doing this is because some of those other terms are not very flattering. I have been talking about the straight shooter personality, and I've been using Paul as an example of that personality type. And my encouragement to straight shooters is to watch how they talk to people, not talk down on them, but talk them up. I had mentioned how Paul split with Barnabas and how he got on Peter. Nevertheless, interestingly, this same Paul, who in Galatians chapter 2 got on Peter, 4 chapters later, is saying something different, and what he is saying is a reflection of his growth despite his personality type. In Galatians chapter 6 verse 1, I'm quoting from the New King James Version, he writes that, "Brethren, if any man is overtaken by a trespass, you who are spiritual should restore the person in the spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you be tempted." I like the way the New Living Translation expands on this. It says, "My brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back on the right path. And be careful that you do not fall into the same sin as well." The Amplified Version expands it even more. It says, "Brothers, if anyone is caught up in a sin, you who are spiritual." And the Amplified Version goes ahead to explain what that means. Someone who is responsive to the guidance of the Spirit. So the Amplified Version is saying, if anyone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual, responsive to the guidance of the Spirit, should restore that person in the spirit of gentleness, not with a sense of superiority, not with a sense of self-righteousness. Restore that person and be watchful of yourself so that you don't fall into the same sin. Paul is writing this, which reflects his growth, because that's not the approach he used with Peter, and that's not the approach he used with Barnabas. But over time, Paul grew up and exemplifies what I'm encouraging straight shooters to do, to grow up and watch how you address issues. It's interesting, he writes, the kind of person that should be addressing sin or any form of mistake and how that should be addressed. Not anybody should be talking to anybody because they made a mistake, they fell short, they sinned. Not just anybody, but someone who's spiritual, someone who's mature, someone who's godly should restore that person, not destroy the person. We live at a time that people feel like they are called to call out people. We live in a time where everybody feels like it's their job to police other people, other ministries, other establishments, other individuals. But Paul writes that only people who are spiritual, who are mature in the faith, who are godly should be addressing that, and they should be doing it in a spirit of gentleness. Along the same lines, remember I told you how Paul split with Barnabas because of John Mark. Well, in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 11, Paul makes an interesting statement. Again, this is years later. Paul is saying, bring Mark with you because he's useful to me for ministry. The same Paul that dismissed Mark and dismissed Barnabas is years later saying, bring Mark with you because he's useful. He dismissed Mark previously because Mark left during a ministry trip. So at that point in time, he felt like Mark was useless. But look at him now. He's saying, bring Mark with you, for he's useful to me for ministry. Again, a reflection of his growth. Straight shooters, as well as every other personalities, can grow as well. That's my emphasis. But enough of straight shooters. Let's talk about the other personality type. Sanguine people. Sanguine, like straight shooters, are outgoing. They are extroverts. Straight shooters and sanguines are extroverts or outgoing. But the main difference between a sanguine person and a straight shooter is that straight shooters, while they are outgoing, they are task-oriented. Sanguines are outgoing and people-oriented. Straight shooters will get around people to get those people to do work for them. Sanguines will do work to get around people. Straight shooters are about results. Sanguines are about relationships. Sanguine people are friendly. They are fun. They are loving. They are outspoken. They talk too much. They are perceived as loud. They are interesting. They are interested. They may appear flashy. They are the life of the party. They are hospitable. They make you feel comfortable. They are welcoming. They believe caring is sharing. And as I alluded to previously, while I think Peter has a straight shooter side, I think he also has a predominantly sanguine personality. And Paul called Peter out when he felt like Peter was being two-faced. Unfortunately, sometimes sanguine people can appear to be two-faced or duplicitous. But I want you to think of this from a different perspective. Are they that way, or is it their personality that is coming out and we're misunderstanding their personality as people who are phony or fake? I want us to look at this from a different perspective. So Paul's issue with Peter was that Peter was one way with the Gentiles and one way with the Jews. Could it be that Peter, being a people person, someone that cares about people regardless of where you're from or what your skin tone is or what your background is, when he's with the Jews, he's connecting with the Jews. When he's with the Gentiles, he's connecting with the Gentiles. Unfortunately, the Jews didn't care for the Gentiles, so therefore, when the Jews came in, Peter, being aware of their presence, is conflicted and he kind of backs off the Gentiles to connect with the Jews. And when the Jews are around, he connects with the Gentiles. Whichever case, the challenge is because he wants both to like him, he is behaving in a way to, I guess, salvage his desire to be with them. Could that be the case? Because guess what? This has happened before. Remember when Jesus was about to be crucified? And guess what Peter said? Peter was like, oh no, I got your back. You know, the outgoing, friendly person who wants that relationship. Oh, I got you. I'm with you. And guess what happened? He denied Jesus. He acted like he didn't know him. Because guess what? He was with another group that he was chilling with. He was warming himself with, he was hanging out with, and they begin to question his allegiance, so to speak. Oh, aren't you with Jesus? Oh, no, I don't know him. He denied Christ. Like, doesn't that sound similar? Peter is with the Gentiles, he's behaving one way. Then when the Jews begin to question his allegiance, it's like he's behaving another way. So is this a case of him not having convictions, or is it a case of because he likes people so much, and some of the people he likes don't like each other, and a lot of sanguines are conflicted because they like both parties and they want everyone to get along, but they are cut in the middle. Could that be the case? Something to think about. Another thing with sanguines, at least some of them, is that, sometimes they overcommit. Sometimes they say things before they think them through. Sometimes they sign up but don't show up. I'm thinking of when the disciples and Peter were in the boat and Jesus is walking on water. Now, Peter could have just said, "Is that you, Jesus?" and zip it up right there. He could have just stopped right there. But no, he went on to say, "If it is you, tell me to come on the water." And Jesus said, "Come." And he walked on water. Then he realized, wait, what am I doing? And he began to sink. Sometimes some sanguine folks overcommit. They say things and do things without thinking them through. And right when they're in the middle of it, they're like, whoa, I can't do this. And they back off or get in trouble. They talk too much. They over communicate. They say things because of the excitement of the moment, because they're trying to engage people and win people, and they love the attention. They love to be around people. They don't like to be ignored. They go out of their way to meet people. And sometimes the reason why they may not show up for something they signed up for is because they are bored already. Some, they like new things, new adventures, new people. So they get bored with adventures or people they've already met and they want to meet somebody else and get into something new. So when they commit to something, they may not show up and commit to something else because it's new and fresh and things of that nature. Nevertheless, sanguines, I encourage you to be slow to speak as well and exercise some self-control and don't overcommit. I want to talk to my ladies. I want to apologize on behalf of some of the guys that have let you down. I say this because perhaps you met a guy, he was nice, he was welcoming, he was friendly, he complimented you, always asking about you, asked you out for coffee a lot, went out with you a lot and everything, and you thinking he's in love with you, you're thinking he wants to marry you, you're thinking he's into you, and he invites you out and you show up, you did your hair, you did your makeup, you were excited, and you show up to this event and there were 3 other girls with him and you were devastated. Lady, my heart goes out to you. Please don't be mad at him. Sometimes it's because he's sanguine. What do I mean? I mean, he's so friendly. He wasn't trying to ask you out as in have a relationship. He was just being his friendly, outgoing, talkative self. And he just wanted to hang out with you as well as the other ladies. Not because he wanted to marry you or anything like that. So please don't get mad. I know some guys fool around. I'm not talking about those guys. But there's some guys that genuinely just wanted to hang out while you thought you were going out. They just wanted to hang out. And it's their outgoing, sanguine personality that was speaking to you, and you were thinking they were in love with you when they were not. And guys, I want to apologize on behalf of that lady that you thought was flirting with you and fooled you. You met her, she liked you, she talked to you, she paid attention to you, she smiled at you, she called you by your name, she gave you a hug, she asked about you, she was engaging, you were like, yo, I think she's into me. And you mustered up the courage and you asked her out, and she looked at you like, how can you ask me out? Why would you even think that I'm interested in you? And you were upset, you were mad, you were like, she's a flirt or whatever. I was like, slow down. It could be that it's because she's sanguine. She's naturally nice and friendly and welcoming. She's caring, she's sharing. That's all you were saying. It wasn't that she wanted to marry you. For the guys and the ladies who are upset and thinking, wait, what are you saying, Tokes? I'm saying they're sanguine. And one way you can know this is how did they treat other guys? For the guys, how did they treat other guys? Were they friendly, welcoming? Did they hug them? Did they compliment them like they complimented you? Well, if that's the case, yep, she was sanguine. And ladies, How did they treat? Well, I think that's pretty obvious. You know, you showed up and there were four other ladies there, probably thinking like you that they were the one for him, not knowing that he's just a sanguine person. And again, this doesn't take away from the fact that some guys play games. Along the same lines, it's hard for me to tell people who are friendly, outgoing, caring to say to shut it down. You can't, because we all need to be like sanguine people. We all need to be friendly and nice and caring and sharing with other people. However, I want you that have sanguine personalities who perhaps for the first time you're realizing that, wait, this is what's been happening. I want you to understand, especially when you are communicating with the opposite sex or gender, to be mindful that your actions could be misconstrued. I am in no way saying you need to stop being nice or friendly and caring. I'm just saying just be mindful and maybe readjust your approach a little bit so that, people don't think you are saying something to them that you're not. Okay?